Recorder is on and we're on, so go ahead.
All right, so since it's 7:01, we'll bring the Mashpee Board of Health meeting to order. Our first item of business this evening is a review and approval of the meeting minutes for May 21st, 2020 and June 4th, 2020 public session. Does anyone have any comments on either of those sets of minutes?
I'm all set with May 21st. June 4th is almost completed, so we don't have to do that one.
Okay. Where is... I'm just looking for the... Oh, there they are. Yeah, I didn't have any comments on the ones for the 21st. Do you have any comments, Ronnie?
No, I do not.
Okay. Okay, would you like to make a motion on that?
A motion to approve the minutes of May 21st, 2020.
Okay, I will second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Expense warrants. This is my bi-weekly reminder that I haven't come to town hall and signed expense warrants, so I still have to do that. Do you have any new ones this week, Glenn?
No, we do not have any new ones, but there are several that need to be signed.
They're piling up. All right. A review request for septic variance for 5 Wood Road. Just give us the background information on that one, please. Go ahead.
Okay. The owner of the property, Mr. Westman, is also a retired professional engineer, and he's requested a variance from the septic inspection regulation relating to the replacement of a septic tank buried greater than 4 feet below grade, which was determined during a septic inspection. Now, did you get a chance to review the information that was sent, Brian?
Yeah, I did look over the document that was sent for this. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have many questions on this one. I mean, what's the depth of the leach field? If the tank is more than 12 inches, what's the leach field depth?
I believe it was about 6 feet, but we don't have any issues with the H10 or H20 loading of the leach fields. And I think it's a leach pit.
It's a pit. It's a pit.
Okay. Oh, I missed that.
So
both items are shown on my Exhibit 4. And the design was predicated on the Cape and Islands Engineering and New Seabury Engineering in 1995. And it does show on there that the septic tank was to be installed at an elevation of 12 inches below grade with, and it's also designed for an H10 loading. Based on the actual location, for some reason, I don't know why, it was installed at 5.5 foot below grade, but in an area where we cannot have an H10 loading. And what I've tried to do is to show if the tank was located at the design location with an H10 loading, what the pressure would be on top of the tank compared to the actual location where it's actually 18 inches below the 4-foot maximum that you call for, which was changed in 2013. And the difference is over 1,000 PSF difference based on just the soil being on there versus 12 inches of soil and an 8,000-pound wheel load on it. As I mentioned earlier, I've been doing this for UPS up and down the East Coast for many, many years. And I've been involved in a lot of their underground storage facilities. With an H10 loading, which is usually reinforced and has designed to like a 5,000 psi concrete, the additional 18 inches that goes beyond your revised 2013 code should not have any significant bearing on the structural integrity of the existing tank. It's been in there for 20 years. Never had a problem, had it cleaned, and, never had a problem anywhere. It was inspected when it was first put up by the health department, and then again in 2006, and it wasn't any issue, and just in the past couple of weeks, it was re-inspected. And once again, they had no issues with anything else. You just flagged that the depth is now 5.5 feet versus the new regulation of 4 feet. And I was hoping just to show you that the additional pressure will not have any difference on the structural integrity, and it should be grandfathered in based on the 2013 new regulation. Not broken. As I said, I don't believe in fixing something that's not broken. So I'm looking for you to hopefully look at it the same way.
So in your Exhibit 7 here, I'm just looking at the calculations that you did.
Yeah.
Is that based on a round tank?
Yes.
Or
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually, that's based on a flat tank. A round tank would even be less. The pressure would be less than I'm showing. Okay, but basically what I'm showing here, if you had 12 inches of soil, with the soil weighing, this is all sandy material, well drained. You had 125 pounds per square foot. You only have a charge on the top of the tank of only 125 psf. If you put the additional wheel load, which is calculated based on the depth and a 45-degree angle of the 8,000 pounds, that adds another 1,586 pounds to the same top of the tank, which brings the total pressure to about 1,700 pounds per square foot. Now, if you go to the right, and we show the tank where it's actually at 5.5 feet, all we really have is a 5.5-foot soil depth of 125 pounds, which is only 688 pounds per square foot. And if you look for a factor of safety, you have a factor of safety of over 2.5 based on the existing conditions of the tank. So I'm saying it's it's never going to be a problem with this tank. And I realized, speaking to Glenn last week, that you did have some tank failures, and as I pointed out, they could be contributed to differential soil pressure below the tank, or they could be the construction of the tank. Maybe they weren't designed, for any kind of loading other than just being on 12 inches below grade or something,
Right.
So to me, it's a no-brainer, to be honest, and to go through the expense of, $10,000-$15,000 to replace something that is functioning well and it's not going to be a problem, just a good engineering judgment, I feel that the right thing to do is just to leave it and grant the variance.
Okay. Ronnie, do you have any questions?
Well, all the components are H10, correct, Glenn?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe they are.
Yeah,
That's what's
well-
on the engineering plan.
Well, I would really question the D-box after this length of time, what condition it's on. We've never seen a distribution box on H10 last for 20 years.
Yeah, the D-box is not included in our depth requirement, just the septic tank.
Lower. That's even lower. That's about 6.5 feet below grade.
The issue that I have here, and I did talk to Mr. Westman about this, is that those failures that we had were tanks that were between like 5 and 6 feet below grade, and it was an extremely wet spring, so there's quite a bit of water on top of the tanks, and 3 of them failed and put the entire contents of the tank back into the house. And so we had extreme public health hazards that occurred because of that. And that's why the regulation was changed. And those were H10 tanks in about the same depth, and they were actually younger than this. They were tanks that were 10 and 12 years old, and this tank's 25 years old. So that's why the regulation was made, and we went to 4 feet because the precast companies don't warranty or guarantee their tanks if they're buried over 4 feet. So the engineering may be fine, and in a perfect world where the tank, and as a new tank, may meet these requirements, but we're now looking at a 25-year-old tank where I know that if the tank is 30 years old, we require the tank to be pumped and have the entire interior of the tank inspected. We got away from that, but I think that there's got to be some other kind of guarantee that this tank is going to last if we're going to leave it there, and and I don't think it's going to be $10,000 or $25,000 to fix it. I think that it's going to be less than that. And if money is going to be an issue, which I know it always is, I think the board could allow an enforceable agreement if there is a buyer involved, to take on the responsibility if Mr. Westman isn't willing to do that. So that's an option which we've done in the past.
So in the course of the inspection, did the inspector actually look at the tank in the D-box? With that amount of depth, did he dig down to it? Did he find risers or anything like that?
I believe they did. That this was the only issue that was brought up, was the depth of the tank. Because
okay.
Our regulation doesn't cover the D-box or the leaching. We've never had an issue with a leaching pit collapsing due to H10 or H20 or depth.
Did he do any physical inspection of the inside of the tank? Just to inspect for like microbial induced corrosion or anything like that?
I don't
He
remember.
did. He said it was structurally fine.
Yeah, I don't remember any comments to that effect.
So I would prefer to see the enforceable agreement, placement of the enforceable agreement with this property in regards to the tank.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I don't think it should be. It should be addressed, just because of the public health hazard in particular. It would be a matter of just bringing the tank up to grade. I don't think you wouldn't have to touch the D-box or the leaching pit in this case. I think you could leave those alone, because we haven't had instances where they've failed. I would like to see a camera inspection or something like that done of those two components before we'd sign off on allowing them to stay.
He had a camera on the D-box.
Yeah, the inspection's been performed.
Okay, so did he scope the D-box?
Yes, the other components were okay, and they're not in the driveway. If they were, if the D-box was in the driveway, we'd be including in that, but as far as replacement to bring that up to H20, but it's not in the driveway.
Right.
Oh, that was my issue. Okay, I thought it was.
Yeah, no, and the D-box is not included in our depth of the greater than 4 feet, just the tanks, pump chambers, grease traps, those structural boxes we've included in that.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think the tank should be addressed. It doesn't need to be addressed at this point, but I think on transfer it should be addressed. So I think an enforceable agreement would work in that particular case. So when you're looking to sell the property, is that the kind of the thought?
Yes.
Yeah.
So how do you propose to address that in the potential sale of the property? Tell them if something happens in the next 5 years or something like that, or how do you propose to put that in there? Nothing lasts forever, but...
Well, it's upon sale. We'll give them so many months once the house has been purchased, to upgrade tank.
Yeah, the buyer will take responsibility to fix the septic tank, and the board will talk to the buyer about the time frame that they have to replace the tank.
So you're saying that no matter what, the tank has to be replaced?
That,
Either now or when I sell it? Or when
Leaning towards,
or until it's
Yeah, what
sold?
we're saying is that if you would prefer not to do anything with it now, I think we're okay with that. But I think once if you're going to sell and the property changes hands, if you don't want to address it beforehand, if you would prefer that the buyer take that responsibility, I think we could do an enforceable agreement where the buyer would take responsibility for replacement of the tank. Typically, we would require that it's done before the property transfers, but in cases where the buyer agrees via the enforceable agreement, which basically is a contract between the Board of Health and the buyer that says that they will replace whatever needs to be replaced, and we give a time frame for that to occur, which is usually 90 days from date of transfer.
Wow. That's not a long time.
Yeah, it's really not that hard to engage an engineer and get that replaced in that short a period of time.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying, but you're really not giving me any alternative. You're asking me to repair something or replace something that is functioning fine. And I said, through my professional engineering experience, this tank can last another 20 years. You know, and you're just having to be replaced. I don't think that's good engineering judgment. You know, I mean, I can't see the reason for it. If I was, going to replace it, then I could see you replacing it with an H20 loading. But there's nothing wrong with the tank. You know, it's
for the moment.
I don't see the logic behind having to replace it either now or within 90 days of the sale. To me, there's no difference. You know, replacing it now or telling the owner they have to replace it within 90 days and leave it up to them. You're telling them they're going to have to replace it within 90 days or some short period of time.
well, we're trying to prevent a health hazard, and that's really the thing here is that, yeah, we both may not know exactly, but we have enough experience in the past with these situations where the tanks can fail, and the board has the right to prevent a health hazard.
Oh, I understand. I understand what you have the right to do. I'm just saying I just don't agree with the philosophy just to replace it because it could fail. You know, anything could fail. You can put an H20 loading in there at the right depth, and something could happen, and that can fail too. You know, I mean, to me, that if you went through every property in Sandalwood and found out that half of them have tanks that are over 4 foot in depth, are you going to make them all replace them within 90 days?
At time of transfer, yes.
As they were found, that would be the requirement, yeah.
Does the grandfather thing come through something like this?
There's no grandfathering in environmental laws.
No, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go by whatever you want. I don't agree with it, but I don't have any choice.
Well,
No groundwater. I'm just looking at a couple of your notes.
Groundwater is 12 feet below. You can't even have saturated sand on top of the tank. It all drains. And as I mentioned, I've been there for 20 years. I've never had a puddle anywhere on the site.
Yeah.
You're not getting saturated soil on top of it. I think that should be a factor to consider also. If it was a low-lying site, where you always get a lot of water, then I can understand what you're saying, Glenn. But in this case, it just drains.
So there's no indication as to why this was installed this way?
No. It shows 12 inches below and designed for an H10 loading. Why it was installed 5.5 foot, I don't know.
Okay.
I wasn't there at the time.
Was this prior to your ownership, or was this as
I'm the first owner of the house.
Okay.
It was a spec house built in the late 1900s, in 1995 or something like that, 96, as a spec house. And I said that that's the way it was. It was inspected at that time by the town, inspected again in 2006, and just recently re-inspected. And the only issue came up, it's 18 inches below the allowable depth. So I'm saying for 18 inches, you're forcing me to replace the tank. Not me or the next owner within. I can't be honest. I can't sell the house to someone and say, hey, you know what? You're going to have to replace the tank within 90 days. That's going to kill the sale right away. No one's going to buy a house knowing that they're going to have that expense. Even if I say, well, I'll pay for that, it's not where you're saying that, well, if something goes wrong, I'll pay to have it, a new tank put in. You're saying that within 90 days it has to be replaced. So I'm saying I wouldn't put that on a new owner.
There are a lot of cases where so if you have, let's just say, in the town of Mashpee, if you have a cesspool, that's an automatic failure. That has to be replaced before transfer or within the 90 days if we have an enforceable agreement. So there are a lot of cases where we have components that don't meet the requirements that have to be replaced, and it's unfortunately, it's just part of the regulatory framework we all have to live in. We have to look at this not just from the engineering standpoint, but there is the regulatory framework that we're sort of bound to take into a high consideration when we look at these.
But that changed in 2013. That wasn't the regulation when it was built.
Well, it wasn't supposed to be that deep to begin with, so.
That's when we had the issues with those tanks, so.
Yeah, well, I'm saying, even when you inspected it when it was first built, the Department of Health could have said something then. Hey, you show on the drawing it's 12 inches, and now you put it at, 5.5 feet. And they should have had something done at that point. You're putting me in a very awkward situation. I don't mean to put you in an awkward situation. I understand where you're coming from. But I'm saying this is a regulation that came out 7 years ago, and you're forcing me to do something which really isn't necessary. You're saying, well, something could happen. You've had tanks fail before. Well, as I said, you don't know the soil conditions. If the soil was very wet and dense, when you add additional weight on it, I would see that. Maybe these tanks also were in a driveway, or there was an H10 loading on it in addition to all that caused a problem. But you don't have any of those conditions on my site. The soil is very, very, it percolates real well, never any drainage problem, never any standing water. You're talking about 18 inches of additional surcharge on a vessel that is also designed for an additional 8,000 pounds, which isn't there. There are so many factors that go into this thing that you're just making a general statement that it could happen. Sure, it could happen. I don't say, it can't happen, but it hasn't happened in 20 years. And concrete is concrete. It can last for 50 years. So I just hope you reconsider it, and other than saying that I'm going to have to replace it, either now or within 90 days of the sale.
Well, thank you, Mr. Westman, but I'm still going to vote to deny the variance request and to allow an enforceable agreement prior to the sale of the property between the prospective buyer and the town to agree to replace the system within the septic tank within 90 days from the date of the purchase and sales.
Okay. Are you making that as a motion, Ronnie?
I am.
Okay. Okay. I'll second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So at this time, we can't grant that variance request. I mean, there is a procedure, a process by which you can appeal that decision, if you would like, but at this point, I think,
How do I do that?
you could talk to Glenn about that procedure, during business hours, and
Okay.
we'll have to move on. Okay?
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right. You have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on here. Item number 4, which is discussion of floor plan relative to bedroom count for 257 Monomoskoye Road. Glenn, if you could give us the background for this one, please.
Okay. Okay, there was a prospective buyer, Joe Mendez, who contacted the Board of Health office regarding this property. And before that they purchased the property, they wanted to know how many bedrooms were legally on the property and in the existing dwelling, and how many would they be able to have and keep if the property were torn down. So,
You need to let someone into this? No? No. Never mind. I wasn't sure if someone was waiting.
okay. So the property at 257 Monomoskoye consists of a wood frame dwelling and a couple of outbuildings. The main dwelling is an uninsulated seasonal cabin with a fireplace. An inspection was performed for another potential buyer, so a rudimentary floor plan was drawn at the time, and I inspected it, and there was only one bedroom that met current standards for the definition per the sanitary code. There were 2 other rooms with beds, but they did not meet the minimum square footage per the code. And also one of the outbuildings. Did you receive the site plan for this?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, on the site plan, that outbuilding was labeled as one of the sheds, and it had a pair of, a set of bunk beds in it, but there was no heat in that structure. So I think at this point, because there is one primary bedroom that had 86 square feet, and the 2 other rooms, if they were joined together, they're separate rooms right now, but it did kind of look like they may have been one room at one point, and they were separated. They'd have a square footage of 92 square feet, so that is greater than the 70 square feet. So that could possibly be a second bedroom, and that is within the main dwelling. And so because of the fireplace, that is the source of heat. So even though the main dwelling is basically unfinished on the inside, those were the uses of those rooms and the sizes of those rooms. And so, did you receive my comments on this property?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
looking it over.
Okay, so I think that at this point, it does look like there could be 2 bedrooms in the main bedroom, in the main dwelling, and that outbuilding with the bunk beds doesn't have any heat. So I can't really consider that to be a primary bedroom, even though it did have enough square footage for one bedroom at 72 square feet. So my recommendation would be to have the property be a 2-bedroom, and if the 3rd bedroom was requested, we're not in zone 2 here, but we are on Monomoskoye Road, and the abutting estuaries are considered impacted. So if the third bedroom was requested, I would recommend that a composting toilet be approved at that point if they wanted to do the increase in flow from 2 to 3. The two properties abutting this property at 265 and 266 Monomoskoye were required, well, they were built as new construction and were required to have the composting toilets with a Title V system as a gray water system. So, but this is a little different. There are existing structures on this property, even though they were seasonal. I think that the existing floor plan shows that there's an argument there for two bedrooms, and if the possibility of a third, using the composting toilet as a condition for that.
So the third is the shed.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, to me, that's not even on the table. That's not a bedroom.
Right, well, it's unheated, so I don't think there was any way to consider that.
Yeah, unheated, probably uninsulated, probably no electricity, just a shed with it. Not a bedroom, no matter how you look at it.
Right.
So to me, that's totally off the table. I think if how is this deeded? Is it deeded as one bedroom?
I did not review the deeds, and I don't think it's been through. This property is in its original condition from the 1930s. So,
Okay.
I don't believe there's been any conservation involvement. I think there has been some inquiry about whether a pier, ramp, and float could be put on it. But again, I haven't been privy to all those conversations, but I have not seen any submittals that would list the number of bedrooms based on that. So at this point, I think that is up to us to determine.
Okay. So there's only one legal bedroom right now, and if they were to combine the other two rooms, they could potentially have another legal bedroom there. So it would be a 2-bedroom.
That's how I see it. The assessors has it as a 1-bedroom now, but again, I think this falls on us to determine.
Well, Glenn, where's groundwater here?
Not too far down.
Okay,
Couple
okay,
of feet.
so can it meet Title V requirements without a denitrification unit
When they
for
tear,
two-bedroom?
when they tear down the house, they're gonna have to raise the house up and likely raise the property like they have done with all the surrounding properties, like 265 and 266. Ronnie, you know both of those properties.
Yeah.
Tom Smith's house and then the attorney across the street. Well, this
Right, but
this property
not
is right next to the attorney.
But that's not naturally occurring permeable soil. I mean,
Well, I agree, but that's why, but there's, the difference between those two other properties and this one is that there's existing dwellings with an existing septic on it already.
will they have a cesspool?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay.
There's no other record, so I would expect so.
Well, I think it's fair for a 2, and the third require the denitrification unit if it can meet
Well,
requirements.
the system's gonna be a UV and a D-night anyways, because it's not even gonna make the 75-foot setback.
Oh, okay.
So we're starting with that, and that's, I apologize, I should have mentioned that, but, so the composting toilet, I think, could be reserved if they wanted to have the increase in flow to get the third bedroom.
Well, I agree with that. What do you think, Brian?
With the 2 bedrooms, pending installation
Yes,
of the
and
UV and D-night?
Yeah, and you don't have to make a determination on that third, that's only if that's requested, but I think that, moving forward, I think we at least need to figure out what the property will have legally, so that engineering and sales could occur.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, given the size of the dwelling and probably the nature of that particular neighborhood, I think a two-bedroom scenario makes sense to me. I mean, for me, I wouldn't be willing to look at a third bedroom in this case. I mean, like I said, that's not a room. I mean, anybody could throw a shed in the backyard and put a bed in it and say it's a room and say, oh, well, I have three, so, I mean, that's off the table for me, but.
Okay, how about if I motion for the board to allow a two-bedroom dwelling at 257 Monomoskoye Road, and should the owner request a third bedroom, then the installation of a composting toilet would be required.
Well, I mean, for me, if they're going to request it, we should review it at that point instead of, because if we do that, then we are potentially granting them a third bedroom if they do the composting toilet. And it does. I think that motion wouldn't give us the opportunity to look at that again.
Okay, well, that's fine too. Okay, so I'll just restrict the property a motion to restrict the property at 257 Monomoskoye Road to a dwelling that consists of two bedrooms only.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I will second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Yep. All right. Review request for Title V variance for 25 Naushan Road.
Okay, let's bring Mike back on board here.
I'm on the phone, at least, and I see
Yeah,
my computer's starting. Oh, you disconnected me.
no, you're up.
So I do the audio by the phone, right?
Well, I can see you, so you're
Good.
working.
Okay, and everyone has the plans. I don't need to share a screen. Is that correct?
I believe so. I think we have the plans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. For the record, my name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant, Philip George. Mr. George owns the property at 25 Naushan Road. It's at the very end of Naushan Road. It overlooks Dean's Pond. The Pompanesett Homeowners Association actually owns the land between this lot and Dean's Pond. There's actually a public or a community walking path on the plan if you look at it. On the plan also is a proposed septic system, as well as you can also see just to the south or southeast of the house, I've superimposed the current existing plan, current existing septic system, which is a 1,000-gallon tank and a leaching pit. I was able to get records of the design plan from the health department, and you can see the circular circle, which is an old leaching pit. This was built in the mid-'80s. The design plan, which upgraded the septic system at that time, is dated 1985. The current owner is proposing to do some renovations to the house, install a patio and pool, and the current septic system would be in conflict. It doesn't meet the setback requirements from Dean's Pond. It wouldn't meet any of your current local regulations for setbacks from wetlands. The tank is less than 1,500-gallon tank. There's no proposed increase in bedrooms. The applicant is proposing to move the SAS to as far away from the wetland resources as possible, placing it in the back corner. And also proposing to install a 1,500-gallon septic tank generally in the same location as the existing 1,000. The existing 1,000 would be removed, pumped and removed, and the leaching pit would be pumped and removed. We're seeking variance relief from 310 CMR 15-211, and I've listed the variances on the plan and just above the title block. SAS to property line 10 feet. We're proposing a 5-foot property line setback. We received a comment from Glenn to verify that there were no nearby SASs from abutting properties. From Caitlin, we got copies of as-built information for both of the abutting properties that would have a potential to be less than 10 feet to our system. And both systems are they're not close to the property line. They're certainly more than 10 feet from the common boundary. So, therefore, they'd be more than 10 feet from this proposed SAS. We're also asking for relief from the SAS to a cellar wall at 20 feet. It's impossible to meet that setback. We're only able to get 8.6 from the bulkhead to the edge of stone at the closest point, and at the closest point of the main cellar wall, 10 feet, which we're proposing to mitigate by installing a impervious membrane, excavating and installing a waterproof membrane along the cellar wall to mitigate for not being able to meet that setback.
Okay.
And finally, there's one more variance request, and that relates to setback from septic tank to cellar wall, 10 feet. We're only able to provide 6 feet in an effort to maintain 10 feet from the boundary or property line with the neighbor. We created a self-variance from our own property instead of affecting an abutter. So there's no increase in bedrooms. This is a much better situation than the current situation, where the SAS is more than 100 feet from Dean's Pond. The septic tank is over 50 feet from Dean's Pond. We have been to the Conservation Commission, and they voted to they voted to issue an order of conditions for these proposed improvements. I think that sums it up. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Close to there. So you're outside. You said you're outside the 100 feet setback.
From Dean's Pond, yes.
Okay.
Mike, that relocated shed is pretty close to the septic. You need to move that someplace else. It's just way too close.
Okay. It'll sit on sonotubes. There's no foundation under it, but we could try to shift it towards Noshon where it says proposed driveway. Is there a distance you'd like to see it set from the edge of stone?
Well, I don't, this plan isn't to scale, obviously, because I'm looking at it in my iPad. So, what do you have for the number of feet between the shed and the outside of the stone?
Oh, probably 2 feet.
Yeah, so I thought, they're asking an awful lot of a contractor to be 2 feet away.
I can move it. I didn't think it was an issue because it's a small shed. It would sit on either sonotubes or even concrete blocks.
Well, it's just, I'm thinking of the contractor who installs this.
Sure.
The soils are going to collapse, and it just makes it very difficult.
Sure, we could move it probably closer to Noshon, but still behind the house. I could probably provide, a 5 to 6 foot separation from the edge of stone. There'll be no excavation other than just for the sonotubes.
Yeah, I would say if you could move it up, shorten the driveway up a little bit, and get that up out of that area, I'd prefer to see that too.
Okay.
Are they increasing the existing home?
The renovation bumps out the Dean's Pond wall 2 feet in an area that is currently a deck. So the back foundation and the main body of the house on the septic system, any place where the septic system is not being altered at all. It's only on the side facing Dean's Pond. They're going to take the deck off, and they're going to expand so the depth of the house, which is currently 32 feet, changes to 34 feet by pushing that Dean's Pond face 2 feet closer to Dean's Pond.
Well, Brian, one thing doesn't sit well with me is variances are usually granted when the homeowner is it's found to be, and there's words for that, and it's been so long since I've heard them, but for just to put in a pool and a patio, to grant variances is not what is considered a... Glenn, help me out with this.
It's a self-imposed hardship.
Thank you, a hardship. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
There is no self-imposed hardship here.
So when you're doing a renovation and adding a pool, and you have to put the septic system in a spot where you require variances, you're putting yourself in that situation. It's not like a failed system, like a remedial situation, where we would look at that and say, okay, yeah, that's, let's get it up out of where it is.
Well, I respectfully disagree. The pool meets the setback to the current system. The system that's on the ground now hasn't been determined to be failed. And the system that's on the ground now is totally substandard. It's a good thing to put in the new system. There's nothing that we're doing that's creating the need for the variance other than the owner wanting to just renovate and upgrade everything to make it everything new.
Well, is the house being expanded on the leaching side?
No, that's what I said. It's increasing 2 feet towards Dean's Pond only.
So for me, on the one hand, I agree. Putting in a new septic system is an improvement over the existing scenario, which is...
I agree, too.
...creating a bigger environmental and public health hazard. The other piece of this is, like I said, by not granting the variances, we're not depriving the owners of use of the property, so it's one of those situations where we wouldn't necessarily have to approve variances like we would in a remedial situation. So there's that aspect, but I'm leaning more toward the public health improvement aspect on this one. Are you kind of the same?
Yeah, I agree.
Mr. Chairman, I would totally agree if we were like tearing the house down or adding on and creating the need for the setback because we're too close. So I appreciate your comments on that because there is a definite public health and environmental benefit to this.
Yeah. So, based on the fact that it's an improvement over what's there, if this were a different situation where it was a Title V system that was totally compliant and they just wanted to move it so they could put a pool, in that case, I'd be like, I don't think I would approve variances for that. But since this is also a very large improvement over what's there, I think I would be in favor of allowing this.
I agree.
Just 1 second here while Okay, surveyor stamp is on there. So usually when we're right up against the lot line, as you're probably aware, you're going to have a surveyor on site to stake the property and all that stuff. And
yep, absolutely.
Yep. So you worked in town for long enough. I'm sure you know all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
35
but
years.
You're still going to move the shed, right, Mike?
I'm happy to move the shed, and if you want to make it a condition approval or a condition that I must submit a revised plan, or if you need me, I guess the worst of the choices would be to continue it so that I can move the. But I think I could shift.
Just I don't think that's fair to the contractor. I really don't.
I agree.
Yeah, so let's get it away enough that he's able to work and get the
Yep.
system installed correctly.
Okay,
Yep.
that is not a
I
problem.
don't think we need to see it again.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can
Okay,
submit a
so-
revised plan to the health department office.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. Okay, so a motion to grant the variances, 5 feet in lieu of the 5-foot variance in lieu of the 10-foot requirement to the property line, SAS to property line. 10-foot variance from the SAS to solid wall. And the subject tank to solid wall, 4-foot variance.
Mm-hmm. And with the condition?
And the condition that the shed be relocated further away, they'll be contingent upon the health agent's approval for its new location.
Okay.
You want to set a distance on that, Ronnie, just to be clear on
10
that?
feet, 10 feet or greater.
Okay.
Okay. I will second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good.
Great. Thank you very much, folks. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mike, you
Thanks a
too.
lot.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Okay, up next, we've got item number 6, review of Title V variance for 29 Echo Road.
Okay, Raul, you still there?
Glenn?
Okay, you still there? Okay, let me bring you up.
Glenn, can you get the other account up? Or I can just
Okay, yep.
talk on the phone.
Hold on. Forgot you had two there.
While that second one tried to load up, good evening, for the record, Raul Isari from
Okay.
OC. This property 2 years
What
ago,
was that?
2017.
You were cutting out a little bit there, Raul.
See if I can.
I'm hearing bits and pieces of what you're saying.
Do I sound better now?
A little bit.
Sounds better so far.
All right. So the property was built in 2017, and last year it received approval for an expansion of the site. The expansion was for a total square footage of 7,400 square feet, and that was in June 2019 that it got the approvals from the town, including an approval review from the Board of Health. The property is now going to be phased for construction, and I'm going to try to share my screen and talk a little bit about what they're intending to do. Can anybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the plan that we presented today for this meeting. And last year, what was approved was this area that I'm highlighting for an expansion of the building.
Right.
This building over here that I'm highlighting is what exists today. However, what the contractor and the facility wants to do is phase the construction. So along this westerly side of the building, they're going to put some construction separation when they start constructing the main building. In the meantime, what they want to do is get permission for these two wings, one to the south, 32 feet by 12.7 feet, and one to the north, 32 feet by 12 feet. Meanwhile, everything will be operational for business and for retail purposes. However, the town of Mashpee requires septic systems for commercial use to have both the primary leaching and the reserve to be constructed and just flip between one another. But at the same time, each system has to meet all the setbacks and requirements. This is right now the existing septic tank. This is right now what I'm calling leaching field reserve, constructed and operational. And this is right now leaching primary, constructed and operational. The proposed project would be for this addition, temporary addition to be constructed, this septic reserve has to be decommissioned. The valve that's here, bull run valve that's here, will be directing the flow to the primary system to the right, effectively disconnecting this system for this addition to take place. However, that will make the site, because it's going to be continually operating, non-compliant with the town of Mashpee requirement of both the primary and the reserve. What we intend to do is permit or construct this system over here, this leaching system, as a primary, and this other system as secondary. They will both be meeting all the requirements, but there will be a period of time during the construction of the temporary wings, particularly the temporary wing to the back, where that one particular requirement in Mashpee to have both the primary and the reserve operational will not be in place. So I reviewed this with Glenn briefly, and he recommended we request a variance for this particular case. It is not typical, because usually when a site is going under construction or remodeling, the facility is not in use, so the existing septic systems that are in place could be removed at any time when the new ones are being installed, so there is no need for a variance. But because this will be at all times operational, it will technically not meet the Mashpee requirements to the letter for that particular time until the two new fields are constructed. The two new fields are sized for the main big expansion. Once this expansion is close to completion, these two wings will be removed. So these two temporary wings will eventually be removed. The areas will be back to, in the case of the back, it will be probably some delivery zone area. In the case of the front, there'll be some sidewalks and some pavement. But then the overall size of the two new systems, leaching system, is for the entire 7,400 square feet. The two wings, adding them up together, they add up less than 800 square feet. The existing building is roughly 1,500 square feet. So the two of them are less than 2,300 square feet, and the two fields that are being constructed are for 7,400 square feet. So they're more than capable to manage the flow from the wings that are being proposed. The one wing on the back is being shown with a new sewer pipe. The reason for that is because that wing is going to house a new bathroom, and we don't want to reroute the bathroom into the existing building. It's easier because it's going to be only temporary to just install a pipe. I am showing an existing tank and a new tank. They are having some trouble currently with some of the pitches in the slab of the building. So what I'm proposing to do is the new tank is going to be at the same elevation, but the pitch from that tank to the building will be at the 2% slope to allow for better flow out of the building into the tank. It also provides more separation to, in this area that there's some utilities, some AC units, and some conduits, just provide more setbacks for any work that may take on that in that area. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Hey, Raul, on your site plan, is the green tank going to be the new tank, or is the tank you have highlighted going to be the new tank?
The green tank will be the new one. The highlighted one, this one, is the existing one.
Okay.
The green one is what I intend to be new.
So you're going to install the new tank and tie that into the existing, basically the two 500 shared or paired system, or are you only going to install that when the new system gets installed, all the new leaching too?
It will be more than likely to be installed at some point in the transfer of the flow. There's going to be a time period where the flow going into the tank is going to be emptied so that they can back to the building, so that there is no flow going into any systems, and they can put this system in this tank and reroute the flow to this field here, and then reconstruct the second field. Because when they reconstruct the second field, the two fields will no longer be active. These two fields will both be impacted for the construction of this field. So this tank will be the one that then will be servicing the whole facility with this field over here. So it's a phase within a phase for the construction period.
All right, I'm a bit confused because I thought that you were gonna be using the existing tank and the existing primary SAS. Now you're talking about adding a new tank, which is gonna be right in the way of the existing primary.
So for the construction of this field, they have to use only this field here, and this one will be decommissioned. So this one will be gone
Yeah,
for the construction of this
Yeah.
addition and the construction of this field. Then we have to reroute the flow from the existing tank to this field, to this new field, so that then we can construct the second field and take that field out.
okay, so will there be two septic tanks in operation at one time?
No, the intention is this primary system will have the flow rerouted to it
Okay,
so that they can install this tank and then remove this tank. This tank will be installed once the two new leaching fields are installed and the flow is being rerouted to this field.
okay,
So there's going to be some logistics that have to be played out. And actually, this is based on as-built cards. So once they expose this field, there's going to be more information as to where exactly these pipes are and how they can intercept the pipes to reroute the flows. But that's the intended approach here. And until both of these fields are in place and this tank is operational, there's always going to be that temporary service.
yeah, Raul, you're breaking up pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I was saying is that until these two fields are installed, there's always going to be that temporary period where we're not going to have a compliant primary and reserve operational per Mashpee code.
Okay, so they're gonna put the new tank in and the new primary in and basically discontinue the other existing leaching right now.
Yes.
Okay, so
So
that
so that I
kinda,
understand that, so the plan is you shut off the existing reserve, so you're only using the primary while the temporary building is being constructed. And then you will put in the new primary field during that, maybe at the same time they're constructing this new temporary addition?
Yes, it's all going to be in the same phase.
So are you going to redirect flow temporarily from the existing tank to the new primary? Or, yeah, okay. So that's another temporary type of setup. And then you put the new tank in along with the new reserve tank, and then at some point switch the flow over to the new tank to both systems. So there will be,
That's correct.
2 points where you're relying on one. Yeah. I mean, that's going to be a challenge to orchestrate logistically, but I mean, I think it makes good sense to me.
And the location for the system is the best location because it is actually the highest ground on the site. Contour 13 is the one that wraps around here, which is the highest point from all the neighbors So it's ideal for this system.
Right. So when you are installing the new primary, the existing primary will be in place. There's not a whole lot of separation there. Do you think you'll be able to maintain the integrity of the existing primary while you're installing the new primary?
I see what you're talking about. We could shift and give more separation from that corner. Again, this is based on as-built cards, not really knowing the exact location of that corner of the stone. But yeah, we can work with shifting because setbacks are not a problem for the proposed fields. Actually, for the proposed system, once all this temporary time period is gone, there is really no need for variances because everything is in compliance. But yes, from that corner, we'll probably have, as it's shown, it's probably 2 feet from that corner. We can shift it down probably another 3 feet and give ourselves more separation.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. I mean, this is probably really sandy material in this area, right? So just want to make sure you're able to, because especially considering it's going to be an active leach field while this is being constructed. So. Okay. What do you think, Ronnie?
It's a little confusing. I could not follow roll because I'm watching the TV and this doesn't come in at all. So, excuse me, I'm all stuffed up with allergies. And so, I understand what you're doing, except for that little interim period, where you're going to be switching off everything. I'm fine with that. I have no issues with you. Actually, you're going to be temporarily disconnecting the reserve. Is that correct?
Right. So the reserve will be the first one to be disconnected.
Right, and then the primary will be used for everything until phase 2, or whatever we're going to call it, until the next, until the new system has been installed, and at that time it will be hooked up. Correct?
Actually, it will be in phase 1. So while the 2 wings for the temporary buildings are being constructed, this field gets constructed. The flow from this pipe out of the existing tank, out of this pipe, gets rerouted to here.
I can't see the rules, so I'm just, but I know what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
So yeah, it's logistically, it will take some care from the contractor to follow the sequence to make sure that there's always flow going to the system. There will be a period when they have to intercept this sewer pipe. Well, they have to make sure there is no flow coming out of the building at all, so that they can connect the pipe for the tank and then activate this tank to receive the flow and discard this tank.
Right.
And they want to
maybe require closure at some point.
They just want to be able to continue operations while all of this is going on. That's kind of the idea here.
Right. A couple of the things that are driving this is the current conditions, the current health conditions. So they are also including a tent outside for separation and so forth. But yeah, part of this is to be able to continue operating and be allowed to operate while this addition is underway.
Okay. I mean, I think it makes sense to me. Like I said, that's going to take some orchestration to make sure that, there's no flow coming in when there shouldn't be. I could see a situation where they have difficulty locating the pipe or routing something and might have to close for a day or something, but I think it makes sense.
Yeah, and something to be clear is this is I don't know how it's going to be worded because this is not a permanent variance.
Right.
It's some sort of temporary variance tied to the temporary building wings that is going to go away once those buildings are gone.
Right. I mean, Glenn, is this, so, I mean, in terms of a variance, though, the end result of all of this is that there is a fully compliant system, so it's really just a procedure, it's part of the installation procedure that they'll need to rely on a single field. So do you think we need a variance for this, really, or?
No, I don't. I wasn't sure when I first talked to Raul that when that northerly wing was going to be built, I thought that reserve was actually going to stay. It was going to be deactivated, but it was going to stay in place. And so, and I didn't realize that part of the new site plan, actually, the board has already approved. So technically,
right.
An installer could pull the permit to install the new system and just install the new system in phases. So
right.
with which we've done before, and ultimately would not issue the compliance until the main septic tank, the other D boxes, and the reserve leach trench is installed. So I didn't fully understand that, because I was going to get into the whole definition of temporary and 180 days and all that, which we don't need to do, because
right.
because the new system is going to take precedence once that permit is pulled.
Right. Right.
And you know what, Brian? I wrote that down in my notes, but I didn't understand what the variance was for because you're only using one at a time. So I'm with you. I agree totally that it's really not necessary for a variance.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you're comfortable with this, Glenn, that they'll be able to do this procedurally to get this, put together and not have a public health nuisance on our hands while this is going on, then, I think I'm fine with it.
No.
I think it'd be a good idea if we asked the health agent to go out during these completion periods or disconnection first or disconnection to verify it's disconnected and to verify that it's been reconnected, during this whole thing so that everybody's on the same page. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, you'll have to do your inspections in phases as they put these in, because I imagine you're going to install the new leach field and then you're going to want to backfill all that so you can use it. So you'll have to do an inspection at that point.
Right.
So you would have that opportunity,
Right.
Glenn, to remove, to make sure everything looks okay, and then they could proceed at that point with the installation of the second field and of the new tank. I think.
And then to make sure that the water is shut off too, so that there's no water entering it during that ticklish period, then so you would get called out again. You would get called out again to verify there's no water going into the system.
Well, we do partial inspections, so we could definitely handle the phasing inspections.
Yep.
And
Yeah, you just need to clarify that with everybody else.
And those
Yeah.
and the tanks can get removed and installed in a day, so I'm not too worried about the flow. Certainly, they're going to shut down the water so that they're not going to have the workers being exposed to anything. So I'm not too worried about that. So because the tank replacements occur pretty quickly.
Yeah, that won't take long
In
at
a
all.
matter of a day, for sure.
Yep.
So I apologize, Raul, I didn't fully understand the phasing that was going to occur here, so I'm not sure a variance is necessary either.
I appreciate the time that you took to just put us in the agenda, which was really quick for this project. And I actually just found out about this phasing last week. So the expedited process to get before this board is really good for us and for the facility.
Yeah, I think it's a great solution, and it takes the old system right out of play from the get-go, which is definitely a better solution.
Yep.
So at this point, I think just the permit for the new system would need to be obtained, because the board's already approved this plan with at least looking at moving that new primary toward the front street a little bit to get away from the existing primary leach trench.
Yep, I can do that. I think would 6 feet be sufficient to feel comfortable with that separation? I mean, the system is probably 5 feet below finished grade, the bottom of the system.
Yep.
3 feet of cover, 2 feet.
Yeah, I would say at least 6 feet between. That would, yeah, just because it is an active leach field. You know, we want to stay pretty far away from any potential, liquid transfer across that boundary into the area where the workers are building the new primary. That would be
Right.
the only thing. So, I mean, I don't know if we even really need a motion and a vote. I mean, like Glenn said, we've already approved the plan. It's really just the phasing of how this goes together, and the inspections are going to occur anyway as this is put together. So,
We'll take care of this in-house.
yeah.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with that, Ronnie?
Yep, I totally am. Yeah,
Okay.
I think maybe you should formally withdraw the variance request.
Oh,
Roll.
that's true, because, I request, we withdraw the variance request with no prejudice.
A motion to accept that?
Okay, I will second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
very good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Good night, guys.
Thank you.
Good night. Have a good one. All righty. That was an epic Title V run there.
Yeah.
That makes my whole day Title V in some way, shape, or form.
Put down the history books.
All right, so item number 7, review of requests for amended food establishment permits relative to outdoor seating for the restaurants that are listed on the agenda, but I will not read individually.
Okay. All right, so in order to, I've been sending Brian at least the surveys that we've been doing of the outdoor seating for the Mashpee restaurants, at least those that may have existing seating where they have reduced their amount of seating so that they could socially distance according to the guidance. And then there were several food establishments that also had requested to have expanded areas to get additional seating. And so the assistant health agent and I have been going around the last full week or so, working with the food establishments to get them additional seating. And prior to that, Joe Callahan and the fire department had several conference calls in discussing some of the guidelines. And so I think it's worked out really well as far as the outdoor seating that's been done. But as the food establishment permit is under the Board of Health, and the additional seating areas are now essentially been put out in the field and inspected in the field, we just felt that the board needed to at least review and approve the seating that is considered temporary during this COVID pandemic and health emergency. So just the food establishments that had that increased or expanded their seating area were the 99 restaurant, Sienna, Blue, Sopranos, Cafe Trevi, Laura's Home Cookin', Wicked, Finally Dino's Sports Bar, Estia, Cape Cod Coffee in Mashpee Commons, Asia, the Raw Bar, Bob's Seafood Cafe, Burrito Bistro, Rory's Market, and Cook's. If you have any specific questions on the establishments, we can answer that, because not all the food establishments submitted a site plan, and I actually did not get all the site plans onto the computer for the meeting, but I just want to let you know that we've been around and have inspected all these, and the food establishments have done a nice job with putting out the outdoor seating, and the fire department also inspected for the safety. So I think we're in good shape at this point.
Do you want to add Knockabout too?
Well, I'd like to add Knockabout to the agenda because I did want to talk to them about them, because they're doing a little more. They have a little more of a drastic change that they need to do to meet the guidelines.
Okay, well, we'll wait for that.
Okay. So that I'm kind of clear on how the spacing works, is it 6 feet from tabletop to tabletop, or is it 6 feet from like where a person would be sitting to where another person would be sitting?
It's person to person. The way that
Okay.
DPH originally wrote it was table to table, but they have changed that in all of their conference calls to us, and we portrayed that to the food establishments that it is person to person, which
Right.
the social distancing has always been. It was kind of a misnomer the way that they kind of wrote it first, doing table to table, but
Right.
they meant person to person.
Okay. Yeah, I did notice you had sent a note about Blue and specifically having their seating a little too closely, and I had noticed that myself too. That the tables looked like they were 6 feet apart, but the chairs were definitely closer than that.
Yeah.
I think that was last week that I saw that.
Yeah, we had been by there, and I think a couple of tables had gotten changed after they had power washed the outside patio area. And I think that it just got set up, this one area in reverse, because once we changed the 4-top to a 2-top, it seemed to work out pretty well.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, do we need a vote on that, Glenn?
I believe we do, because the permits have kind of been
Changed.
altered to
Yeah.
allow the outside seating, and if because of the expanded outside seating, should really just be allowed for during the public health emergency, and so that that expanded seating doesn't stay forever. There has to be some time frame to it, because the expanded seating right now is not part of their original permit.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so I'll motion to grant the variances for outdoor seating during this COVID-19 epidemic, and until such time as Governor Baker allows indoor dining to the restaurants as stated by Glenn Harrington.
Okay. Yeah, I think that covers. So we're going to go with Baker allowing indoor dining. Okay.
Well, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm just thinking
Yeah,
of yeah, I think that's the proper.
And you'll be getting guidance from DPH anyways, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I think your wording is better, because I had in mind that it would be till the end of the public health emergency, but that could last for who knows how long. So it's probably better to go with when they allow indoor seating again. Okay.
Well,
All right, I will. Go ahead.
there are some restaurants that are gonna have existing outdoor seating areas still, so,
Yep.
even though that there's gonna be inside seating as well, inside
Mhm.
dining. So I think something should address the expanded areas, or that should expanded areas be rescinded to go back to, existing conditions prior to the pandemic.
Well, they did say, Glenn, just during this period,
Okay,
until Governor Baker is allowing indoor dining. And then it shall revert back to its previous permit
okay,
conditions.
Yep.
okay. That's fine.
Okay. And you went through the list of ones that that have the new expanded seating, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. I will second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So jumping up to old business again. So we have,
Do you want to add knockabout here at this point and talk about that, since we're still doing outside seating, or?
okay, yeah, why don't we do that then? Would you like to make that motion, Ronnie?
To, for knockabout?
To add it to the agenda,
Oh, okay.
because
I'd like to amend the agenda to include knockabout beers, outdoor seating.
Okay, I will second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Knockabout.
Okay, so in order for Knockabout to be considered a true food establishment in the eyes of the guidance for the COVID-19, they have to change their operation from basically being a pouring operation to have outside seating with table service. It's that table service that's required, and I think it's more on the alcohol end where they're gonna be serving alcohol. So it has to be in a controlled environment where there is wait staff involved. So their outdoor seating is gonna turn into table service. And Peter Murner, the owner, had reported to me that he was in the process of hiring staff and getting someone who was serve safe and allergy awareness trained, and actually getting additional components that included a sandwich maker and a hot dog steamer and
Panini press?
I'm sorry?
Panini press? Wasn't that panini press?
I'm sorry,
Panini press?
the panini press, thank you.
Oh, okay.
So that the menu, at this point, he's gonna be doing lobster rolls and then sandwiches and hot dogs. So, and those will be done on a wait staff basis. And he's provided the cut sheets for each of the pieces of equipment and the plan where the equipment is gonna be placed behind the bar. And I think at this point, in order to keep things moving, that the board should look at conditioning a new permit or an amended permit to include the wait staff and the menu based upon the submittal of the serve safe and allergy awareness and an inspection by a health agent.
Are they expanding the outdoor seating?
No, not to my knowledge, no. He's got plenty of outdoor seating there.
Okay.
So just so that I understand, so the current situation is that Knockabout will not be able to open because they do not currently provide weighted food or table-weighted food service. Is that kind of the idea?
That's correct.
So they want to amend their existing food establishment permit so that they can be able to serve, and then ergo be able to open, I guess.
Yes, if they did not do that, they would still be considered a bar and not open until phase 4.
Let me ask you this. They currently have a retail or a food establishment?
They have a food establishment, which is actually required for the, for their pouring license too.
So what would we be approving if they have a food establishment license?
Well, right now, their menu is changing, their equipment is changing, and their whole operation with wait staff is changing.
Yeah. So basically, Ronnie, what they're doing is so that they can open now, they're going to turn themselves basically into a restaurant. It's
Right.
kind of what I gather from this.
Right, if they don't do that, they'd have to continue to operate as a takeout only.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's an interesting way to crack the nut, I guess.
But wouldn't we just be approving a change in the menu? I don't understand. They already have outdoor seating, and they already have a food establishment license. So they're changing. We don't never do anything for staff,
Right, but they didn't have any food.
but they nonetheless had a food establishment license.
Right, but they still, whenever they add equipment and change their
okay.
menu, they're supposed to request an amended permit from the Board of Health.
Okay, you can. So they're going to amend the permit to include change in equipment. And what's the other thing? Because you cut out when you said it.
The change in equipment, the wait staff, the menu,
The menu is right.
and
Well, the wait staff, we never had a restriction on that.
well,
So it would just be the two things, right?
I think the operation has changed enough where it's part of the whole amendment.
Right. Well, we might as well put it in better than leaving it out, I guess, huh?
So they have submitted at this point. You said they submitted allergen awareness yet, and the serve safe. Did you
No.
say that had been done already?
No, they're working on that. They have not submitted that, so that would have to be a condition.
Okay. And we also don't have a floor plan
No,
or a menu at this
They
point.
did do a floor plan and they did do a menu.
Okay. All right. Are they? They're not going to be doing the food trucks anymore. Then is that kind of the thinking?
That's correct.
Okay. So that's the food trucks is partially why they had the seating, I guess.
I believe they could still use the food truck as their primary source of food, but it would still have to be food delivered with wait staff to the tables.
Right. So in other words, people can't stand in line at a food truck. They have to be
That's
sitting
correct.
down somewhere.
They don't want people standing in line or
Right.
being congregating.
Okay. All right, Ronnie, did you make a motion in that piece
Well,
of discussion?
let me withdraw that motion and say I motion to grant a food establishment license during the health emergency of the coronavirus, COVID-19, provided that with the stipulation, a change in equipment is approved by all the conditions are approved by the health agent. Number one, the equipment, increase in equipment is approved. The staff, the increase in staff is approved.
Yeah.
And what was the third one?
Change in menu?
And the change in menu is approved. And the Serve Safe and Allergy Awareness certifications are submitted along with the other information.
And also pending inspection?
And of course, pending a pre-opening inspection by an agent of the Board of Health.
Okay. Yeah, I think that covers it all. And this is, Glenn, just so that I'm clear, this is just for COVID-19. They're not planning on keeping it this way, or?
That I am not sure, but we can condition it for during the pandemic response and address it at a later point if Knockabout so chooses to continue it.
Okay. Okay. Then I will second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. All right. So we have 81 and 95 Echo Road on here twice. So we need to take up in executive session and in public session for them tonight.
Why don't we do public session first, and then that'll kind of determine if you want to go into executive session.
Okay. All right. So then why don't we take up item number 1 under old business, which is a review of compliance for 81 and 95 Echo Road.
Ronnie, did you make it to town meeting?
No, I
Okay.
did not. No, I was a little apprehensive about going, so I didn't go.
No, that's fine. I saw Brian there. And I had missed a bunch of people who were sitting in the back room, so I didn't know if you had made it. All right. All right, so after the last meeting, we had issued the final abatement order to the owner as the owner of 95 Echo Road. And so that order was hand-delivered last Friday, and so the owner had 7 days to respond to clean the refuse pile up as of tomorrow. So in the meantime, at town meeting did approve the requested amount of $150,000 for the Board of Health and the town to move forward to abate the violation. We did receive 3 quotes to remove the pile with transportation and disposal to various disposal sites. I had sent 2 of the quotes to you, and I think I still owe you the 3rd quote.
When did you send those? I didn't get those.
You didn't receive those?
No, I did not.
Okay, well, that kind of takes care of the necessity for the executive session, but where we still have additional time, because we have to also serve the next administrative step after the abatement order is to serve the owner, to notify them that the town has the right to then take action, and any expenses incurred will be placed as a lien on the property, and now that the money has been appropriated. So we can review those quotes at the next meeting and still get the pile removed in a timely manner.
Okay.
Because I think that all three of the companies are pretty poised to do the work. One other thing that occurred is that we did hear from the mortgage holder who holds the paper on the property, and they have stated that that they may address the pile, the removal of the pile to abate the violation themselves, because they know that the owner isn't going to have the ability, and they're not looking forward to the town placing a lien on the property, which would not give them clear title to the land. So there is a chance that if the third party will come forward here and get the work done. So that, I think that is in the works right now. So there are some things that still have to be done on our end, but I think there is some light at the end of the tunnel as far as the work being done from an interested third party.
Okay, well, that's good.
So
That is good news.
that's really all I have is the update for that, and I'm sorry I didn't get all three quotes to you, but I think we still have time to review that as we have one more administrative step to go through.
Yep. Okay.
That's all I had for that.
Okay, that makes sense. So then we won't need executive session tonight,
No.
which is okay with me. All right, so then let's just move on right to the review of the amended refuse hauler regulation.
And I have not heard from council, so we don't have to do that.
Okay.
Boy, that's taken forever.
Yep, I think they've been working on other things.
Yeah, I think,
Well, not just in the whole thing, but the revisions and all that.
yeah. He was probably pretty busy with town meeting this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
The last item was the COVID-19 update. You want me to do that?
Sure, sure.
All right. Many of these are standard, which we've been keeping up with, maintaining the Mashpee COVID-19 webpage with up-to-date information. We continue to participate in the weekly conference calls with the Department of Public Health and Cape Cod Health Agents Coalition. We're reading the daily updates from the COVID-19 Command Center. We've been answering questions from the public and the business community about the Phase 2 reopening standards. Sending out emails to Mashpee food establishments, informing them of the process for making changes to the floor plans to accommodate expanded outdoor seating. Reviewed floor plans for expanded outdoor seating at food establishments, and discussed the changes with building department, fire department, and town manager's office. We've inspected the outdoor seating changes in the field. We've been doing outdoor pool pre-operational inspections at Willow Bend, Sea Oaks, Bayview Condominiums, New Seabury Athletic Club, Sea Quarters, and New Seabury Cabana. We've sent out the COVID-19 safety posters for pools to display. We've sat in on a planning meeting for the emergency child care program operating at Casey Coombs through the rec department. We've scheduled a recreational camp inspection for Willow Bend, which is coming up on Monday. And they seem to be the only ones who are looking to do a camp. Many of the other camps are not going to open. New Seabury camps are not going to run.
The Boys and Girls Club, no?
I'm sorry?
Boys and Girls Club is not?
Nope, they are.
Oh, okay.
We're in the process of working with the guidance with Ruth on that. We discussed playground safety standards and cleaning guidelines with DPW. Transferred the COVID-19 safety signs for the beaches from Barnstable County to DPW for display. Reviewed layout plans for the outdoor gym in Mashpee Commons operated by Bespoke Studio. Communicated with the VNA regarding new cases and updated our public safety answering point, the fire department, and the town manager. gave the town manager updated information on the COVID-19 requirements ahead of town meeting, disseminated information through Facebook, the Town of Mashpee website, and Mashpee TV regarding children's immunization clinics and pop-up testing sites for those that have attended large gatherings, responded to COVID-19 complaints at Dunkin' Donuts on Route 130, A Great Wall, Pizza Guys, The Picnic Box, Liberty Liquors, and Emma's Sugar Shack. Participated in a webinar through MDPH and MHOA regarding Phase 2 reopening guidelines and the Triple E mosquito season, which is going to be coming up soon.
Yep.
So if 2020 goes the way that it has, we're probably going to be looking at an interesting Triple E mosquito season.
Yikes.
I have a question, Glenn.
Yeah.
Just to switch off that subject for a second. Has the DPW approached you about the splash pad?
I don't believe they're going to be opening the playgrounds or the splash pad. Those playgrounds that are have the ability to be sealed off are not going to be open, and the splash pad is not going to be open. It's just going to take too much labor and attention for DPW to try to clean that at the recommended level.
Okay. I did get some inquiries about that.
Yeah.
Okay. What was the majority of the complaints? Just masks or?
Yeah, masks.
Masks. Okay.
Yeah. And we dealt with one, if not two, folks with medical exemptions. So those are out there, and they do make it a little harder to deal with. But once we explain it to people, it seems to work out. But people do notice, and they do call.
Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, it seems like a majority of people wear them. So.
Right.
Have we had any issues with the beach at all, as far as density or anything like that, or is Rec keeping a pretty good tab on that?
I haven't had any issues with that or heard of any issues, so
Okay.
not to my knowledge.
Okay. Do they check, or do you guys check Callie's Beach at all? Is that it's not a high density area, but I know quite a few people do go back there just because it is quieter.
I've done the water sampling out there, and I know that it does get some activity, but at this point I have not seen it or heard that it's been overcrowded.
Okay.
I think people can spread out. It's a sizable beach, even though it's got a small parking lot.
Right. Oh, that also reminds me. The ice cream boat has been operating again. Just so you know, I know he's permitted now, but just so you know, he's been.
Yep, they've been inspected.
Okay, that's good. I saw him driving down the road the other day, and it reminded me of last year.
Yep.
Okay. Do you have any other questions, Ronnie?
Nope.
No. Okay.
I have nothing further.
Okay. I have one quick question. You had forwarded me a picture of Santuit Pond. Is that worthy of discussion right now, or is that something we can save for another night, or anything to do?
I think it's going to come back on our radar screen very quickly.
Okay.
Rick York, our newly retired, now volunteer natural resource person, is going to be doing the cell count tomorrow. So we'll hopefully hear on the cell counts. There was a report of a sick dog through the Natural Resource Department. But so that prompted us, the assistant agent went down, and also Natural Resources sent the picture, and Kate took pictures of when she went to the boat landing. The other picture that was taken down by the herring run, and I talked to the Natural Resource Director and said that the pictures did not show a surface scum. They certainly had algae there, you can still see the shoreline of the pond, certainly, several feet out. So I think the algae is there, but the pond is not, I don't think it's at a level where we'll have to close it by cell count, but hopefully we'll know that very soon when Rick does that, tomorrow.
Yeah, I imagine that'll start firing up pretty soon with the warm weather now.
Yeah, and I'm gonna follow up on that sick dog complaint too, just to get a little more information on that.
Okay.
But, the last time we talked about Santuit Pond, we were talking about pumping the septic tanks in the area, but you were gonna check on that, Brian, to see if it was gonna be worthy of doing that to get any of the stored phosphorus within those tanks, to be removed, and you wanted to confirm that, so I'll wait.
Yeah.
I'll wait for you to do that before we go back to the town manager to, hit him up for some funds to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try to set aside some time tomorrow to look that up. Okay. Cool. Thank you for that little update, Ian. I'm sure the complaints will start coming in soon.
Yeah, well.
given that it was a hot topic at town meeting too.
Right, well, the Conservation Commission and Natural Resources have done their first round of 10% volume runoff into the bog area. So that was done, I believe, back in February. So I'm sure we're gonna get the updates on, now that we're looking to have another bloom, there'll be questions why and whether that worked or if it needs to be done again. But I will leave that up to them, but we need to continue on our path to talk about what we can do on our end as far as if septic inspections are required or pumping or what other mitigation can be done to reduce the phosphorus in the pond.
Yep. Okay. All right. Yeah, let's plan on that discussion, and I don't know what our next agenda will look like, but maybe the one after, just to make sure it's kind of top on our minds. The only other question I would have tonight would be: have we received any letters of interest or anything for the third board member spot?
Not that I've been made aware of.
Okay.
Time to put another ad in the paper?
Yeah, I think so. Just because there's only two of us, which adds its own complications. But if either of us gets sick, then we've got a problem.
Right.
I was going to ask, I know, that was on my mind, and I forgot to ask that question, too. So,
Yeah, I thought of it. I thought of it after town meeting, but I wish I had thought of it before. We should have had them make an announcement at town meeting that we needed somebody. Oh, okay. I think I'm all set for the evening, if you are, Ronnie.
I am. So do you want me to motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:54?
Sure, I will second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
a lot,
Good night.
guys.
Good night.
Have a good one. Talk to you later.
How you holding up?
Hmm?
Is that how you holding up?
My head is killing me. That's
I
such
could
a,
kind of tell there at the end that you were.
that's
faint.
such a frickin' headache.
I'm sorry.
Headache when I started.
Oh no.